Well, good Monday morning. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast, and we're set for another fine week. We're going to finish up January with some superstars for you today. I want to introduce you to a good friend from Phoenix, Arizona area, the host of Women in the Arena, Audra Agen. So here we are. Come on board from the green room, Audra. Okay, there you are. Come on in from the green room. I'm glad you're here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how is the weather out in sunny Phoenix?
It's cold. It is unseasonably cold. And what I mean by cold is it's down to freezing at night and maybe 50 degrees during the day. So it's a little weird for us Phoenicians, but we'll take it because 6 months from now it'll be 115.
That is not my idea of Phoenix. You burst my bubble. I
Yes.
love Phoenix and been there many times. So you live in paradise for most of the year, but then when summer comes, it's like, oh, this is not the same.
That is what we pay for having beautiful weather most of the year.
What was it, 9 months of great weather?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, we want to really find out all about you and your podcast, Women in the Arena. So tell us where you were, what happened, and who you're surrounded by that inspired you to do what you're doing today.
Well, what inspired me to do this is I am in corporate America. My podcast is my passion, not my profession, and in corporate America, and I was feeling very disenfranchised because I was working really, really hard, and I wasn't getting the recognition for the value that I was contributing, and it was extremely frustrating. And for a moment, I had this clarity of I'm going to step back and take a look around and see what else is going on around me. Then I realized that all the women around me were doing the exact same thing. They were turning themselves inside out and setting themselves on fire to get acknowledged for their contributions. And it just wasn't happening. So I decided I was going to change that. I decided I was done waiting for the world to change. So I said, I'll change it. And I created a platform where I invite women in from all over the world to tell me about what they're doing in the world and how they're showing up. And that's what inspired the show.
So, a great format, a great forum for outstanding women to show up and be seen and become role models, I guess.
That is correct. Role models for other women, for themselves, for the men in our lives, the men that want to know more about what it's like to be female in this world. And I will tell you, the most interesting thing about this is that all of my interviewees are referrals. The greatest audience that I've gotten referrals from is men. That
That's
is
outstanding.
they are the ones that have sent me the most women to interview.
Now, if you had this impetus to go out and do something to change the world, you must have had some great failure in your life that stimulated you. So, how did you go through that, learn from it, and recover?
Oh, great failure. I've had many great failures. I've had I've had multiple failures. I've had to reinvent myself multiple times. What I have learned is that failure is okay because it's not really failure unless all you do is sit still. All it is learning opportunities because I don't really believe in true failure other than doing nothing. So for me, failure is learning opportunity, meaning, okay, that time didn't work, or that time worked, but the circumstances weren't the right situation. So how can I make this change and improve, find opportunity for growth, and then gather myself up, pick myself up, and move on. And I've learned that I'm incredibly resilient. So that is probably one of the greatest lessons in that.
Yeah, getting up after falling down repeatedly. is a good recipe for those who seek to have success. If you don't get up when somebody knocks you down, you're doomed in this business world because it's dog eat dog in a lot of places. So
It
I
is.
totally understand that. As you've dealt with listening to your audience, listening to your podcast guest, what three reasons have you kind of picked out as the main ones that people seem to always fall into that cause them to not get back up from that fall?
Self-doubt, not having enough faith in themselves to move forward. And what I mean by enough faith is that you don't have to have a tremendous amount of faith. You have to have one kernel of faith in yourself, just enough to pick yourself up. So if you don't have enough faith in yourself, then you're doomed to stay in the same spot. Number two is the unwillingness to learn. And like I said, I don't believe in true failure. I believe in learning opportunities. And if they are set on just repeating the same mistake over and over again and not inviting in growth, that is a recipe for failure. And number three, lacking humility. And growth is a tricky business. You have to have enough self-worth, enough strength in yourself and your ability to move forward in the face of adversity. But you also have to have enough humility in the same space to know that you don't know everything and that there are other people out there that can help you, and that asking for help is a gift, not a sign of weakness. So those are the three things that I have found out, that it's, there's
I,
reasons for fail.
I can see that the third thing that you brought up is really near and dear to your heart because that's where you enter into the relationship with the people and maybe offer avenues of help. Is that what motivates you internally?
Yeah, part of it. I will tell you that I haven't always been humble, if you want to know the truth. That's something that I have learned over time, that humility is a strength. Because I too looked at it at one point that it was a weakness, and as I've gotten older, I realized no, it is a true strength. So I think that having that ounce of humility gives me the best positioning to really connect with other people and see them as who they are, not as who they present themselves to the world.
Absolutely. Well, is the women in your podcast, the women in the arena, is it a motto that you follow that goes with it?
There is. Our motto, so to speak, is celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight.
Doing extraordinary things.
Mhm.
What about the top three success secrets that you can share that others can model from?
I think it is the same as learning from failure. Is, have humility, have strength. But another thing is dare to dream. That's something I've learned. That's a new one that I've learned, is daring to dream, and dream big, big, because if you can come up with it, if you can create it, that is your roadmap to actually bring it to life. I have learned the power of vision boards, which before a year ago I thought it was a bunch of hooey and just crafts, but the reality is that it works, and the reason why it works is because I look at it every single day, and I take steps every single day into what do I need to do today to make one step forward towards the dream I'm creating. So that's probably the newest, biggest takeaway for me.
Well, I agree with the vision board. We did those when I first started in my dental practice. We had a vision board as early as 1981, and it never failed me because every time I make one, we would achieve whatever was on that board. So
It's
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 powerful.
it is very powerful, and very powerful. And it's not just arts and crafts.
If somebody looked at your podcast, is it monetized or is this just something people join?
It is not monetized yet. I'm working on that. But what I would love for people to do is listen. And there's lots of different episodes out there, and there's something for everybody. You can learn something from someone out there. Go and listen and give me feedback, because I want to know. I want to know what people think. I actually want to also I want to speak to as many women as possible.
So who would be your ideal client, these women that you want to come to the podcast?
I have only 2 rules. My 2 rules are: you have to be willing to be vulnerable, and it has to be truthful. Those are my only rules. If you're willing to do that, then you're my ideal interviewee.
So how do you find these ideal clients, these listeners, these speakers?
A lot of them come to me. Like I said earlier, they get referred to me. Like I said, the biggest referral group has been men, which is surprising and not surprising at the same time. But also, as the word of my podcast gets out, strangers contact me. I get emails all the time saying, I heard your show. I'd really like to be on the show. Or I heard your show and I know someone who would be perfect for it. So most of the time, people are reaching out to me. There are occasions where I have been looking through social media and I see somebody who's really interesting, and I'll just reach out to them. It's the worst that could happen. No, nothing. I'd rather try and see what might work.
Yeah, well, tell our audience, they're all over the world, and how would they connect to you, your product and your service, the podcast? How would they find it, and how would they listen? And if they felt like they were a type that might be a guest, how would they connect to you to get to be a guest?
Well, I have several different ways. First of all, where you can find our podcast is on every podcast platform. So you name it, we're on it. Is it Apple? It's on Spotify. It's on all the Amazon devices, on Pandora. You name it, we're there. As far as connecting with me, you can go to our website, which is womeninthearena.net. We have an Instagram page, which is Women in the Arena Podcast is our handle. So you can direct message me there, or you can just old-fashioned email me at audra@womeninthearena.net.
Sounds good. And I hope everyone that's interested will take advantage and write those down. Back up the recording, write them down, and she should be on your playlist. Audra, what about a 5-star client experience? Say you're hosting someone and you're asking them about their life and their experiences. How do you create that 5-star experience on the podcast for the person that's interviewed, and then for the listener?
Well, the secret sauce, if you will, is, first of all, my episodes are not scripted at all. They're completely organic conversations. But in order for that to happen effectively, I have what's called a pre-interview, which will allow us to get to know each other and make each other comfortable, and create a relationship. And then I talk to them about what is important, what is it that you want to say, and they give me a couple of bullets, a couple of nuggets that I start to build the conversation from. And then from there, when it's recording day, I just make them feel comfortable, like it's just 2 girlfriends visiting, and I happen to hit record. And they soon forget that it is being recorded, and they just feel like it's hanging out with me, that they're just having a cup of tea or whatever with me, and we're just hanging out. And that's the experience that they build for the audience as well, is that just come on in and hang out with us and just have a conversation with us. You never know what might happen.
I bet that's got a lot of spontaneity to it, and people sometimes are surprised with how deep it goes quickly.
Yes, least of all me. I'm, some of the time the conversations go in a direction very quickly that I didn't expect. And there are other times that I have to get them comfortable and work at it and dig a little bit deeper. But some of those are the best conversations I've ever had, that I have to just warm them up and, ease myself into the conversation. And then these remarkable revelations happen in the middle of it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, when people share emotion and from the heart, it tends to draw out the best that they have. They're not just spitting out facts, which is what people are mostly used to in podcasts. They're just talking what I did, what I saw. This is really from the heart, and it does create people that become raving fans or brand ambassadors for your podcast, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes, it happens a lot. The the interviewees that I have had on the show, many of them will come back to me and say, "That was amazing." And some of them are in positions where they can help me put the word of the podcast out there, and they do so. Other of them send me other women to interview. But the ones that I think are the greatest are the ones that are just that come to me and say, that interview changed my entire perspective. And now I can't miss an episode. That probably
Nice.
means as much to me, is that they weren't necessarily on the show. They weren't necessarily sending me someone for the show, but they were saying, you know what? I think this changed my life. And for that, I'm excited about, because that means I'm doing my job. That's
Mhm.
exactly what I'm supposed to do, changing the world. I'm just doing it one person at a time.
It sounds like a good definition of success to me.
It does.
And what are you grateful for today, Audra?
Wow, that's a long list. We don't have that long of a show. But I'm grateful for my resilience. I'm grateful for being grounded. I am grateful for finally finding enough belief in myself that I know that I can do anything. And I'm grateful for my family and my friends, because in many cases, my friends are my family. And without any of that, quite frankly, this show would never have gone anywhere if it hadn't been for my family and my friends surrounding me and not thinking I'm crazy, and just said, yes, we're going to cheer you on no matter what we think. We're just going to do it. We're just going to be your greatest cheerleaders. The show would never have gotten off the ground. So
I
tremendously
can,
grateful for that.
I can see the list is long and strong. So,
Yes,
yeah, very nice. Yeah, how do you start every day out there in Arizona?
I make my bed. I know that's an old military trick, but it works. It works. It helps set the tone for the day. And I will tell you that if I have days that are super busy and it gets away from me and I don't make my bed, I know it. I can feel it. I feel untethered. I feel out of control, and I don't like that feeling. So even if I have a terrible day, as long as my bed has been made, I have something inviting to end my day in. So that's how I started.
Very nice. I've not heard that before, but I totally believe it's true. It separates yesterday from today.
Correct.
So, how do you plan to achieve your goal of bringing your message out to the world and doing the podcast, expanding the podcast?
Well, some of that I'm figuring it out as I go along. I can't even pretend on that one. But a lot of it is engaging with the right people. And it's one of those things that they're organically are being brought into my universe. And I follow the breadcrumbs, and they are coming alongside me to support me and believe in this mission as much as I do, and they help me by putting me in the right rooms with the right people at the right time.
Well, I hope we're one of those right people at the right time so we could help you achieve it. What would you feel like if you didn't achieve this goal?
Well, I kind of already have doing that by just being able to engage with women all over the world. I mean, as of this morning, I have an audience that includes 59 countries. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I'm speaking to women all over the world, people, women all over the world, not even just women, men, people all over the world are hearing these stories. I'm already well on my way to achieving my goal of changing the world one person at a time. None of this is a failure.
Well,
The
that's
goal
very
might evolve, but so far, it's a win.
yeah. Well, we're helping you get that message out. I'm hope we're probably seen in 200 countries around the world, just about every country we reach. So more power, more sharing, and more friends telling friends about what's good. And I'm glad you're part of our team. Tell us about challenges when they come to you. How do you overcome them?
Uh, First, I don't ignore it. That's probably the biggest tip I can tell you there is don't ignore the challenge. Acknowledge that it's coming. Sometimes there are emotions that come with it. Don't ignore the emotions. Don't try to pretend that they're not there because they are. And if you pretend, they will rear their ugly head eventually. So I would say deal with it. Take a deep breath. Don't try to solve it all at once. Put one foot in front of the other, and eventually you will have solved the problem. But don't look at it all at once. Go, how am I going to fix this? You're not going to fix it all at once. You're going to fix it one day at a time. That's how I do it.
Now, a lot of the challenges that happen in families is that there's a revenue generating idea that one person has, and the other one says, I'm not so sure, or whatever. Is this a good idea? How do you convince your significant other to go ahead with that new idea?
Well, I'm pretty analytical, believe it or not, even though I have this emotional side of me. I'm also pretty analytical because of my professional life. And I usually will come up with facts and figures and risk versus reward, and I have a plan. And if I can put together a good solid plan where I can say, okay, here we can mitigate risk, and I have plan A, B, C, D, and E. If this doesn't
Mhm.
work, we can do this, this, and this. And that's how I present it to my husband, is that I have thought through this beginning and end. I know what it looks like going this direction, this direction, this direction. And if I haven't figured it out, if I haven't figured it out in these plans A through Z, I'll figure it out as we're moving. But at least I have a plan that in case break glass, do this, that kind of
Your corporate experience definitely shows through. I'm sure that'll help.
thing. Yes, it does.
What about this question? It may relate more to your corporate experience than your personal blog because you're not monetizing it yet. But how has paid digital media like Facebook and Google and LinkedIn ads played a role in your growth? Have you sought any exposure through paid ads?
I have not. However, I do have friends of mine that have, and they say that when it's placed in the right direction, the growth is tremendous. So that is something that I am gearing myself up to do, because you want to do it in the right meaningful way. You can put money out on any of those ads, and it would just be throwing money away if you don't have a very good plan. If you put together a good solid plan, your money that you extend will pay you back tenfold. But you have to have a plan. Has to be a solid, because it is a
So,
business. Ultimately, it is absolutely a business. It's not just saying I'm going to put a reel on Instagram and hope for the best. You have to have a plan.
yeah, I agree with that totally. Uh, Shotgun approach might work, but you need to be specific and targeted. Based on your experience, what is the percentage revenue that you recommend people invest in paid digital media?
Like I said, in the research that I have done based on other people's experiences, and that's tried and not succeeded. We're not going to call it failure, but tried and not succeeded and learned. They're doing anywhere between 10 and 20%. And you do it correctly, that is just a drop in the bucket of what you are expected as a return.
Thanks for that. If you look at who's been in your corner all these years, what is your mentors, person that you follow, or what impact do they have on you?
Oh, I'd have to say my friends. I have 3 incredible women that are in my corner and have been for a very long time, and they are with me when it's, when times are good, when times are bad. They listen to me when I'm having a difficult day. They also are there to celebrate the wins with me too. But it's those three women that are with me day in and day out and have dropped everything for me, for my kids, for my husband. Those are the types of people you want in your corner. The ones that will willingly walk through fire for you and you in return.
If you look back at your life and you say to your 20-year-old self, and you're saying, here's my advice to you, young lady, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself that you're way more powerful than you are giving yourself credit for. Give yourself a little bit of grace and have faith. Everything will work out.
Tell me about your being impactful to others. Why is that important to you?
Because I think we've been put on this planet to do something. We've all been given gifts, special gifts to be used in some way, shape, or form in the world. We don't always recognize what those gifts are or how to use them. But when you use them in a proper manner, that is that's the whole purpose. That's the reason that you're here. That's the way that you feel fulfilled. It's the fuel that gives you energy to get up every single morning and do it over and over and over again. It's what sustains you through difficult times, and it's what propels you when things are good. That's being impactful, leaning into your gift and doing it on purpose.
Mm, beautiful, like that. Tell me, what would you like to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
She gave her best shot.
And how can we support you in achieving your goals and getting your word out?
Just introduce me to as many people as possible. Uh, Send me women that are willing to be vulnerable on the show and tell me their story, and introduce me to others that just need to hear it.
Well, this is the call right there. People all around the world listening to this on YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, across the world are hearing your call, and they're free to jump in there and get on your show. You've given us our chance to hear from you today. What would you say about your experience being a guest on our show today?
This has been wonderful. It's fun being on this side of the mic because I don't know what's going to happen, which is fun. I'm not the one that's in charge, which is also a good time for me. But it's been wonderful. You've made this an extremely enjoyable process. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And it's a short format podcast, and it's meant to dig in and find out who you are and showcase you because you have such value to the world. We feel like we found valuable people to interview on the Influencers podcast. So thanks for being part of us. And I want to give you the final word and let you speak to the audience and share your heart.
Dream big, guys. I mean, dream big. Don't sell yourself short. Go for it. Shoot for the stars. You might miss and hit the moon. Just go for it.
All right. There you have heard our friend Audra Agen in Phoenix, Arizona, Women in the Arena podcast host. And she came out of the corporate world and is doing something to make a difference. And we applaud you for all the effort and for your honesty, your truthfulness. which is the basis of any podcast. It's the secret to getting to the good stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Just sharing your heart. So thank you, Audra, and look forward to many more connections with you across the airwaves. And good luck with your Women in the Arena podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, that's Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencer Podcast again today, and I want you to stay tuned for more podcasts coming up this morning. We're going to interview some really interesting people, continuing where we left off with Audra and her wonderful podcast. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with another Influencers Podcast version.